hear Nebraska's nice.
Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. In this video, I want to talk about Nebraska, The Walking Dead Season 2, Episode 8, titled Nebraska. It first aired February 12th of 2012. Nebraska is a pivotal episode in the Walking Dead series. It makes a turning point in the group's dynamics and the ongoing struggle for survival. So if you remember the episode right before that, Shane busts open the barn, revealing the walkers inside, and in those walkers were part of Herschel's family and Carol's daughter, Sophia. So this episode picks up immediately after that. They confronted the horde of walkers coming out of the barn. It's a tragic discovery. They had been looking for Sophia for so long. So once all of that happens, Herschel's like, get off my land, or at least get Shane off the land. So they have to start reevaluating their situation and their interactions. Herschel's really feeling the loss. Beth, she goes catatonic there at a certain point during the episode. Herschel, he just leaves and he goes to a bar in town. Herschel used to be an alcoholic, but he quit the day Maggie was born. He was an alcoholic, not just a drinker. He stayed at the bar a lot. So he goes back to the bar after the barn incident and starts drinking again. So, of course, it's devastating to Carol as far as finding out her daughter's dead. You know, they have a burial and things just are kind of breaking apart a little bit with the group, with Herschel's family. Rick is feeling the weight of, them finding Sophia in the barn. And, of course, Shane confronted Herschel and then he went up against Rick, calling out his decisions. Herschel had just believed that the walkers were sick and they could be cured. And he's forced to face that harsh reality that that's not the case. I mean, his faith is shaken. I mean, someone who believes that, okay, these are just sick people. And then, of course, finding out what everybody else had already known. No, they're not. So he goes to town and starts drinking again. Maggie tells Glenn that she loves him and, their relationship, Herschel's about to kick everybody off the farm. So she's like, well, what are you going to do, Glenn? Are you going to stay here if everybody else leaves? So there's a lot going on in the episode. But Rick and Glenn end up going into town to get Herschel. Of course, they want to convince him to return to the farm. Like, okay, dude, don't do this to your family. I know the world just ended for you, even though it ended for everybody else a while back. But you got to come back to the farm. But of course, that's when two guys walk into a bar. It's one of the most iconic scenes in The Walking Dead and overall one of the most iconic episodes. So we got Rick, Herschel, and Glenn in the bar and in walks Dave and Tony. The encounter starts pretty friendly. It's a friendly conversation, but man, does it quickly escalate when the strangers, Dave and Tony, reveal their true intentions and desire to join the group at the farm. And I just want to say, watching that scene back, the conversation at the bar, that scene, that's a masterclass in tension building. The tension is already there with Rick and Glenn confronting Herschel, trying to get him back to the farm. But then, man, and Rick is remaining calm but cautious, diplomatic. But I think at a certain point it becomes pretty clear, at least to Rick, that Dave and Tony are potential threats. And of course, the situation explodes into violence. Rick is forced to kill both Dave and Tony in self-defense. And of course, that marks a pretty significant moment for Rick, as well as Herschel and Glenn. But, not just a harsh new reality that everybody's dead. Rick killing his first two live people. And of course, with Herschel, he just had a harsh reality that, well, the people really are coming back from the dead and they're not just sick. And now he has the reality of, man, the world has gone to crap and it ain't coming back. And there's a lot of dangerous people in the world as well as those monsters that are out there. The Nebraska scene is one of my favorite scenes in The Walking Dead, but everything that's happening with the whole group, it's diving deep into the moral complexities of leadership with Rick, of realizing what the world has become with Herschel. Dale and Shane are having odds against each other as far as he knows that Shane killed Otis, or at least sacrificed him to get away, and that he could kill somebody else, and that he's a hothead, and he could explode at any time. Carol just lost her daughter. Andrea and Lori are kind of going at it. There's just a lot of things going on. Daryl has moved out far away from the house at this point. He's looked for Sophia. Lori comes to ask Daryl to go get Rick and Herschel, mainly because of Beth, and Daryl says this:
"Two idiots having us ride. I'm done looking for people."
Of course, we know Daryl wasn't through looking for people. He looked for Rick for years and years and years and years, and I guess you could say at the moment he's still looking for Rick, even though he's in France. He was on that mission looking for Rick and Michonne. But going back to Rick shooting Dave and Tony, when he shot Dave, the first shot right to the head, and, even with Tony, it was a quick draw. David laid his gun up on the bar. Rick had his hand on his gun. He drew the gun like, it was like an old Western, like a sheriff. There's a sheriff in town, and it's a quick draw, and it's an old Western. And to me, that was the feel of the first few seasons. We had Rick as our hero. He was that Western kind of guy, gritty. He carried that heavy gun on his side, and he could draw it on some people. He was fast. He was faster than everybody else. And that was really the vibe of the show, and when it lost that, at a certain point, it did. He wasn't that as much anymore. And there was so many characters that, it was hard to focus on him anyway a lot of times. But I think when we lost that old Western sheriff quick draw vibe to things is when the show lost a lot of viewers. But Rick, in a self-defense kind of way, killed Dave and Tony. And it was a necessity. It was making a hard choice for the group's survival. I figured Dave and Tony would have killed Rick and maybe Herschel, or Rick and maybe Glenn, and try to get one still alive to tell them where the farm is. Herschel's having a crazy day. I mean, he had a crisis of faith, He went to drinking again. Now he's seen two people die right in front of him. And that was also back when, as we watched the show as viewers, we would ask ourselves, what would we do in that situation? And I think the show lost that after a while. We did a little bit maybe in the later seasons, but in those first few seasons, I think everybody was asking when they would see a certain scene, what would I do in that situation? What lengths would I go to protect myself, my loved ones, my camp, and how much, humanity would I maintain? Would I be able to do those things and still be, moral, and keep my morality and my humanity? But I do think Nebraska is a very standout episode in the entire Walking Dead series. You have intense character development that's happening. You got a lot of moral complexity, high stakes drama, if you want to say that as far as a TV show. It, of course, sets the stage for all the escalating tensions within the group. And they do burn a pile of zombies at the end of this episode. So if you haven't checked out my video on how to burn a pile of zombies, my Survivor series, you could say, definitely check it out. I'll put the link in the description. You guys let me know what you think about the episode. Season 2, Episode 8, Nebraska. There was a whole lot to it, but mainly that scene, of course, when Rick says Nebraska and kills Dave and Tony. We don't know much about Dave and Tony's group. They don't tell us anything much. We just have to get hints and clues from what Randall says, the guy they captured and took back to the farm, and some things that Dave and Tony said. I was thinking about maybe writing some fan fiction of events leading up to them getting to the bar, Dave and Tony, and following them. You guys let me know what you think about that and the episode down in the comments below, and I'll join you there. This is James in Nashville. As always, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more dead stuff.